Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. November 8-5, and 8-5, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my can use November, go. 1 Charlie, and 8-5, this is 7 November, Charlie. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, reference to your last, you're bringing 158 extra 5 tracks around 1200 between teams and local. Also request your units take ground records to see if we can try to get 59 and 8 for pause to the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that.
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf. My unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Yeah, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. November 8-5, and 8-5, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go.
Boom. Another live stream here. All right. We are going to watch a Senate hearing that happened yesterday, I believe, of a new undersecretary for veterans benefits. You're talking VA disability. Sure, the VA secretary matters. Sure, Paul Lawrence matters. But the undersecretary for veterans benefits, VBA, absolutely matters. That's what we're talking about here. Yeah, that's it. I'll shut up. Here we go. Let's hop into it. When can we? There we go.
Too impressive to me, and so we're going to start. Senator Blumenthal is on his way, and when he joins us, he can make his opening statement. The hearing will come to order. Good afternoon, and thank you all for your presence here. We're here to consider the nomination for the VA Undersecretary for Benefits. I want to remind us that tomorrow our nation will take time to remember the Americans who died in terrorist attacks of 9/11, 2021, and the heroes who
2 days ago,
sacrificed their own lives trying to save others. 24 years later, September 11th is still a vivid and painful memory for many Americans, and especially for those who answered the call to serve our nation in uniform following the attacks. To those who stood to defend our nation in a moment of darkness, we thank you and we thank your families for the sacrifice that was made. Post 9/11 veterans now represent 28% of the veteran population in America.
Boom, baby.
They face the highest rate of service-connected disabilities among the entire veteran population. Timely delivery of benefits is crucial to supporting veterans and their loved ones after their service. The Veterans Benefits Administration is charged with administering disability and pension benefits, education benefits, home loan benefits, military to civilian transition support services, survivor benefits, and other resources to veterans after they've taken off their uniform. The responsibility of the VA Undersecretary for Benefits is to make certain that veterans and their families receive quality benefits in a timely manner, as have been provided by law. We have an experienced public servant, Dr. Karen Brazell, before us today as our nominee for this important position. She served in the Army and is a third-generation veteran.
There we go.
She understands the importance of an institution like VBA and its impact on the lives of veterans and their families. Since January this year, the VA has reduced the backlog in disability benefit compensation claims by more than 37%. For fiscal year 2025, the VA is processing claims nearly 18% faster than they were in fiscal year 24. I'm pleased to see progress at the VBA, but as we always say, there's still much more that we need to do to better serve veterans, survivors, and VA beneficiaries. If confirmed, that will be your duty, Doctor, to take upon that task. I look forward to hearing your plans and priorities this afternoon, and I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your willingness to serve. Appreciate your family members that have joined you, and the willingness for you all to take on a role if confirmed. I will yield to the ranking member upon his arrival, but I think we'll proceed with your testimony.
You're not going to believe what happened. Tell me everything. I'll show
Not
you.
my ad. It's the ad of the video I'm watching. This is totally going to be copyrighted, so this is not monetized, in case you're wondering.
I recognize Senator Blackburn to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And indeed, it is an honor for me to introduce Dr. Karen Brazell, President Trump's nominee to serve as Undersecretary for Benefits at the Department of VA. Dr. Brazell is a third-generation veteran who served in the U.S. Army before building a distinguished career in federal service, including senior leadership roles at the VA, the Department of the Navy, the White House Military Office. She currently serves as Senior Advisor to Secretary Collins, leading efforts on acquisition reform, technology modernization, and enterprise planning to improve services for veterans. She also holds a doctorate in strategic leadership from Liberty University with additional degrees in organizational management, computer science, and business administration. The Veterans Benefits Administration is responsible for delivering over
I will say this, that rap sheet, that resume right there, pretty good. She's a veteran. She's been in senior leadership roles throughout the Department of War now. She's been at leadership roles within the VA with Secretary Doug Collins. What more could you want?
$150 billion in benefits and services to veterans and their families. But VBA continues to face a growing claims backlog, which has left too many veterans waiting for the benefits that they have earned. With more than 20 years of experience in government and the private sector, her extensive knowledge in federal contracting, IT, and acquisition reform make her well suited to tackle this challenge and to modernize these systems that our veterans are relying on. And Mr. Chairman, as we have talked so many times in this committee, the fact that the systems are antiquated, that they are not up to date, that the processes that caseworkers follow are antiquated. We know that someone who is competent and capable is needed. Indeed, she is, and I'm pleased to support her nomination and know that she will serve with integrity, with discipline, with a steadfast and unwavering dedication to our veterans. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Raise your right hand. And let me ask you this question. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
truth. The whole
You are now
truth.
recognized for your testimony. Thank you.
All right, let's roll. Here we go.
Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Blumenthal, and distinguished members of this committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am honored to be considered for the role of Undersecretary of Benefits at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I want to thank President Trump for his nomination and Secretary Collins for his faith and confidence in me to lead one of the most consequential missions within the department. I'm equally grateful to the members of this committee for your unwavering commitment to veterans for this and for considering my nomination. This would be my second tour of duty, both at VA and with President Trump's administration, and I do not take lightly what that means. Leadership requires sacrifice, giving more than those you lead. In today's environment, volunteering for political service brings intense scrutiny, personal attacks, and disclosure of one's private matters. I have accepted those responsibilities because I believe there is no higher mission than serving our nation's veterans. My family story makes this mission profound and personal. I'm a third-generation veteran. Both of my grandfathers served in wartime.
Small pet peeve of mine, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Is it veteran or veteran? I'm of the opinion it's veteran, like there's an E in there. VeteranAN. Veteran. And I'm from Kentucky. I like to put words together, okay? But veteran, dude, every time I hear it, I just want to punch myself in the face. Okay, here we go.
In World War I and the other in World War II. My father, a Vietnam veteran, served a 12-month deployment, and my husband of 40 years, First Sergeant retired Kent Brazell, served in Operations Enduring Freedom. I continued that legacy as an enlisted woman in the United States Army. I know the rigorous preparations for deployment, the readiness checks, the long hours, and the responsibility of ensuring that you and your fellow soldiers are ready for whatever lies ahead. Later, as a military spouse, I experienced deployment preparation from the other side, holding together a household, studying children, and standing watch over the family so Kent could focus on his mission abroad. Those dual perspectives, both in uniform and as a spouse, provided me with a profound understanding of servant leadership. Kent is here with me today, along with our two daughters, Jamie and Jacqueline, and my 88-year-old mother, a proud U.S. Air Force veteran, and my father-in-law, an almost 89-year-old retired Air Force veteran, are watching this hearing along with family and friends. Their presence reminds me that military service is just not my story. It's our family story, a legacy of service and sacrifice across generations. I used my VA education benefits to advance my career, gaining firsthand insight into how these programs empower veterans to transition successfully, a lived experience that will always guide my leadership. Over my 40-year career in both public and private sectors, I have worked to enhance veterans' access to benefits they've earned. I proudly served 4 years on active duty, then spent the next 16 years supporting Kent's Army career as a military spouse, experiencing the sacrifice, resilience, and strength required not only by those who served, but also of their families. That perspective gives me a unique understanding of the human impact behind every VA policy. In public sector, I have led the intersection of policy, technology, and veteran advocacy. As VA's Chief Acquisition Officer and Acting Assistant Secretary for Enterprise Integration, I managed a 30...
All I'm saying is, acquisition officer lady, there's a company out there called VeteranAI. You should acquire it. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
$1 billion portfolio and a workforce of over 12,000 professionals. I expedited the community care network contracts to expand private sector care and modernize benefit systems to streamline intake, scheduling, and monitoring, always with accountability, transparency, and trusted outcomes for veterans. In private sector, I built on that experience by modernizing health IT and benefits delivery with technology companies. I deployed automation to accelerate claims intake,
implemented real-time dashboards for oversight, and reduced backlogs that had kept veterans waiting too long for decisions. These innovations minimized errors and delivered more reliable outcomes for veterans and their families. In every role, my focus has been to deliver by listening to veterans, elevating underserved voices, and empowering teams that never lost sight of the mission, putting veterans at the center of every decision and ensuring the benefits they are delivered with dignity, efficiency, and urgency. Thank you again to President Trump and Secretary Collins for entrusting me with their responsibility, and to the members of this committee for your trust and consideration. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Before we go to those questions, I'm going to recognize Senator Blumenthal for his opening statement.
Now
Thank you.
this is probably going to be good. Yeah. Same thing, Kish. When I say overall she's good, I mean from a administration perspective, right? But the Senate is definitely blocking anyone and everyone right now. I think everyone can come to their own opinion on why that is.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Brazell, and thank you for your service to our nation in uniform and as a military spouse, and to your husband as well, whom we discussed when you came to visit me. Thank you for that visit. The VBA's core mission to provide world-class service and benefits to our nation is something they deserve and need, and it can't be accomplished without sufficient resources, both in money and in staff. The Trump administration inherited a VBA that was providing more benefits to more veterans than ever before, partly as a result of the PAC Act, which Senator Moran and I and others on this committee championed. For the past 8 months, we've seen, in effect, the workforce drastically cut through hiring freezes and demoralizing initiatives like forced overtime, an end to collective bargaining for the vast majority of the Veterans Administration workforce. Higher level reviews are veterans asking the VA to take a second look at their claim because the claims processor missed something or made an incorrect decision. Those reviews have increased by 21%. I'm going to put my full statement in the record.
Kish, do you have any idea where he got that 21% number of increased HLRs? Any chance? Also, not that I'm playing devil's advocate, but if you're processing more claims, then you would have an increase in appeals naturally. Okay.
But let me just say that the mass exodus at VBA, about 50% of the VA's regional office directors have opted to leave federal service rather than implement the collective bargaining, busting practices and policies, are in effect undermining the ability of the VA to perform these essential functions. And it's not just the regional directors. More than 1,000 claims processors have opted to leave instead of dealing with unreasonable commutes to unsuitable workstations or forced overtime. You have been a part of this administration. You've been a part of the policies and practices that have undermined the VA's ability to deliver healthcare and benefits. And many of these canceled contracts were directly under your purview. I know you have said you weren't directly involved, but I'm going to want to know exactly how you were involved in what has been done already by the VA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Blumenthal, thank you. Dr. Brazell, from your experience at the VA, do you have any concerns about the VBA's workplace culture? What do you see as the biggest hurdles the VBA faces in successfully serving veterans and their dependents? What needs to change, if anything?
Chairman Moran, thank you for that question. Just to be clear, I have not been involved in any of the VBA operations. That's not my area of oversight right now, but I do believe that we've got some challenges with culture. Anytime a new leader comes in, we don't make changes right away. We assess what's working well and what's not working well. And I think it's important that we look at prioritizing claims modernization. And I say that from the aspect of having one foundational data object. I've heard from veterans, even when I served before, how come I have to give you guys my information over and over? I think it's important that we have the veterans submit that their discharge document one time, and it's used across multiple systems. I also think there's an opportunity to digitize forms. We have a VA form that is for the notice of beneficiary and claimants. It is a 15-page form. The first 6 pages are instructions of how to fill out the next 9 pages. I think we could do better than what we have today for our veterans. And we also need to leverage emergent technologies. I want to look at workforce strengthening. Once confirmed, I will assess and review any challenges and look for opportunities for improvement. And then finally, veteran-centered reform.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the previous one too, Nathan Jahar. Thank you. Appreciate that, dude.
Digital modernization of claims processing. I think it's important that we look at where we can leverage emergent technologies to reduce. We have a claims backlog right now of about 650,000 within compensation. And yes, we've done a great effort under this administration, reducing that by about 37%. But I do believe there's opportunities where we can actually modernize that process to be more transparent to the veteran. But most importantly, any emergent technology we bring to the VA, we must have a human at the beginning and end of that process.
What do you see as your impediments to accomplish what the just described?
Chairman Moran, over the last almost 9 months, I think a lot of it is the culture. We've relied a lot in the VA on our contractors, but we need our contractors because VA doesn't have all the experts. It needs to be a balanced approach, but we've got to have leaders who's willing to take risks. And I say those are calculated risks because some people may misconstrue what I mean by risk, but leaderships ensure that their folks are uncomfortably comfortable. Meaning as leaders, we have to push our people to help them grow, to get them outside of the way they normally think. I'm going to bring an industry perspective, spending the last 4 years in industry and really bringing more of those agile methodologies, encouraging them to take risks, but celebrating what we've learned from when we take risks.
Thank you for your answer. One would think, and hearing you describe the form, that someone else previous to you would have decided this form makes no sense, it's unfair and inappropriate for our veterans. Those things that linger trouble me, and of course, individuals' leadership matters. I also would tell you that it seems to me that the VA may be siloed from the rest of the department, and even within the organization, within VBA, they not necessarily talk to each other. This lack of communication, I think, can cause veterans to fall between the cracks. And I'd be interested, I won't ask this as a question because my time is about to expire and I have one specific I want to ask you, but I would ask you to look into this issue of how do you make the VBA part of an overall organization focused on veterans. And I have a pet peeve, mostly what I know about the circumstances that veterans are in are what they tell me, what their emails tell me, what they tell my staff, and particularly the cases, the issues they bring to us to try to solve on their behalf. And I would love, not because I don't want to do the work, in fact, it's part of the most rewarding thing that most of us do. It would be a great day in which it would not require your United States Senator to get the VA to do what needs to be done to care for an individual veteran. One of my veterans in my hometown has raised this with me, and I've raised this with the previous leadership of the VA, and it may seem like a minor thing, but the VA sends out to veterans in Kansas and across the country, they receive notices to say that their claim is, quote, ready for decision. And a month goes by, and a month goes by, and a month goes by. it's a misleading statement. It's not ready for decision, or if it is, it's still not decided. And I would ask you to take some time and address this if you're confirmed and serve in that capacity. Veterans ought to know what to expect. And in this case, we're misleading them about the circumstance they're in. And I would welcome any response to that.
Senator, Chairman, you bring up a good point. I think it's important to be transparent, but we have to be also factual in our responses to the veterans. There is room for improvement in transparency, more outreach, more education, and there's also more opportunity for us to collaborate collectively with you and your staff to ensure that whatever information that we're disseminating to the veterans, that they understand, and that we're not, I love looking for the right words. Being on the other side, if I had a document that says, hey, your claim's ready for basically decision, I'm thinking I'm going to get notification in the next few days. We need to be clear what that means. And that goes back to if we had a better, I would say not better, but an improved claims processing where the
How crazy would it be if they just took like 5 random veterans who have just went through the process and just asked them straight instead of asking people in levels that are so senior? It's like, how high do you go where you forget what it's like to be a peon, right? I can tell you right now, I get mail from the VA. I know it's nothing. I know it's nothing.
I
Pointless,
actually
dude.
saw what their claim was throughout that entire process.
Pointless, man.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you. When you visited me, you said that you had not been involved in contract cancellations. Have you reviewed any specific contract that has been canceled?
Why does every outdoor brand think I want to look like this? I know.
That's a good point. Yeah. And you know Blumenthal is about to hammer. I can't wait to hear his line of questioning. We'll see how she kind of handles that under pressure, right? Yeah, exactly. Just pointless. Like you're wasting postage, dude. Shoot me an email. Make it an email.
Ranking Member Blumenthal, thank you again for taking the time to meet with me Monday afternoon. And as I have relayed to your staff who I met with last week and you on Monday, my role as senior advisor was to assess the executive orders and ensure that they were followed without any disruption.
You have not reviewed any specific contract? Is that what you're testifying? Just a yes or no, because my time is limited. Have you reviewed any specific contracts that have been canceled? 31,000 contracts canceled. Have you reviewed any of them?
Ranking Member, I believe it's only 2,500 contracts that have been terminated
Have
to date.
you reviewed any?
I have reviewed some of those. Yes.
And have you reviewed the contract that was canceled to train VA staff implementing Suicide Prevention PAC Act and Mission Act mandated services?
Ranking Member, I do not recall that exact contract, and I'll be happy to take that back to look at that for you.
Have you reviewed the one that maintains and operates VA cancer registry databases in various states, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska, that was canceled?
Right.
Food for thought, okay? She's been nominated for the Undersecretary of Benefits. Blumenthal's line of questioning is totally towards the administration versus her ability to do the role. I would much prefer questions about VBA stuff. Ask the VA secretary, ask President Trump himself about the contracts in his executive order. This is for Undersecretary VBA, waste of time, in my opinion, right?
Ranking Member, I do not recall, and I'll be happy to look into that one following this hearing today.
Have you reviewed any of the contracts of your former employer, Science Application International Corporation?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, I have met the requirements of the law.
You have reviewed it or not?
I've met all the requirements of the law as it relates to my
Well,
former
does that mean
employer.
It's a yes or no, yes or no?
Ranking Member, it's not a yes or no. I've met all the requirements
Well,
of
just
the
for the
law.
record, your former employer received $70 million from the VA. No contracts canceled. So you can refuse to answer the question, which is what you're doing, but that's a fact. Let me ask you, Dr. Brazell, do you support means testing VA disability compensation benefits?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, if confirmed, I will do a full assessment and look into that program.
Do you support it?
Ranking Member Blumenthal.
It's a recommendation made by the OMB director, Russell Vought. He's proposed clawing back benefits from veterans to save money.
Ranking Member Blumenthal.
Will you tell the veterans of America that you'll oppose this kind of extreme, cruel measure?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, we will ensure that every veteran is provided the benefits they've earned timely and accurately.
Do you support eliminating
First off, at least this is a VBA question. Okay. Second, I was complaining about Blumenthal attacking the administration. I would make the same argument against the undersecretary nominee right now. It's her answers are like to protect the administration versus just answering it. Dude, if you know anything about Russell Vought, you know that his measures are completely radical, right? I think it's 30% and below would essentially just be deleted. No compensation, something along that answer. Anyways, here we go.
compensation payments to veterans rated 20% service-connected disability, disabled, or lower? Again, another proposal from OMB Director Vought.
Ranking Member Blumenthal, we will ensure that all veterans are provided the benefits that they've earned.
If you're confirmed, you're going to change the way that disability benefits are calculated and ratings are determined?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, if confirmed, I will follow the law.
Well, I'm not asking you whether you follow the law. I'm really disturbed by these answers to my question. I can't force you to be responsive, but I don't view that answer as responsive to my question. Let me ask you, do you support the elimination of collective bargaining at the VA?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, that is under litigation, so I have no comment.
Well, you've been working for the Secretary. He's taken this action, and you're saying you can't comment on it?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Brazell, thank you for being here today and your service and your family's service. A lot of sacrifice from your father on down, so thank you. If confirmed as Undersecretary of Benefits, you will oversee the VA's fiduciary program. Unfortunately, this program has been riddled with fraud and abuse. I sometimes even wonder if the VA understands its purpose. In your own words, can you describe the purpose of the VA's fiduciary program and your priorities?
Senator, thank you for that question. My three principles, we will always put veterans first. We will follow the law, but we will ensure fiscal stewardship through accountability. And if confirmed, I will do a review of the current program and the state of our financials today. But most importantly, we will ensure that we have processes and procedures in place to mitigate fraud, waste, and abuse.
I think we're all still concerned about the legacy of the PAC Act and the lasting regulatory nightmare created for the disability claims process. So if confirmed, how will you ensure
that's a good point.
ensure deserving veterans receive their benefits swiftly while reducing regulations and receive the proper payments?
If you think it might rain later, then all you need is this bearskin heavy storm rain jacket. That's because this is the only
Senator, I think it's important that collectively we ensure that the veterans receive timely and accurate benefits. And if confirmed, I will do a full assessment of that program to ensure that veterans are afforded those benefits they've earned.
Under Secretary Collins' leadership, we've seen record reductions in the backlog of claims. In 1 month, VA processed, I think, 300,000 ratings claims. Is that right? Have you heard anything about that?
We've went from about 650,000 in compensation down to about an inventory of about 140. Excuse me, the inventory is about 650,000, and we're down to about 145,000 that they've processed recently.
How can we ensure that that continues? I mean, do we need any people, any more eyes on the books? How does that work?
We've through VERA, VSEP, and DRP, the voluntary departure of some of the folks, I believe we've lost about 1,400 in VBA, of which about 1,000 of those claims adjudicators. But what we've got to do is, it's my understanding that they've currently looked internally for other folks who are looking to do upskilling the workforce to put additional individuals on to continually to reduce that backlog.
In your testimony, you stated, if confirmed, you would work to strengthen interagency relationships between the DOD, DOL, Department of Ed, and
DOW
coordination and data sharing. Can you elaborate on how this would look in practice? How are you going to communicate with all these groups?
Senator, it's important that we have the collaboration between all other departments and agencies and leverage their best practices. Within DOD, the memorandum of agreement, that was signed by this DOD Secretary and Secretary Collins allows for more data sharing. It also allows for us to really look at a more streamlined transition when it comes to our service members departing the military, especially for their medical discharge exams.
The one thing that I hear most back in my state of Alabama from our VA and our veterans is communication. And I think that is, if we can communicate better, we can solve a lot of these problems. Obviously, not all of them, but communication to my veterans, 400,000 back in Alabama, they're much needed of more talk, more organization, and more explanation of what's in front of them. So thank you. Look forward to voting for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tuberville. Senator Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked the following two initial questions of all nominees before any of my committees to refer to the fitness to serve for the position to which you have been nominated. So I'll ask you, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
Senator, I have not.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
Senator, I have not.
You noted that one of your responsibilities was to oversee the implementation of President Trump's executive orders. Can you tell me what these executive orders were that you were overseeing the implementation of?
Senator, every executive order that was applicable to the VA are the ones that we were responsible for implementing.
I'm asking you for you to name them. Which executive orders are we talking about?
Reducing the fraud, waste, and abuse in federal contracting, we've
What
implemented.
about the executive order releasing thousands of people from the VA workforce? Wasn't that an executive order?
Senator, we did not have a RIF, nor have we released anyone from the workforce. Individuals voluntarily left the VA through Vera VSIP and DRP.
So we really, Mr. Chairman, I would really like to know specifically what executive orders the president issued relating to VA, and I would like to request the nominee to provide that information very specifically. So how many executive orders? I mean, to just say, yeah, well, everybody should reduce waste and fraud, that's pretty broad. So I'd like to know, was that the only executive order you were asked to implement?
She said all of them.
No, Senator, I believe at the VA there was over at least a dozen executive orders.
Good. Can you provide us with that list, please? Very specific. I commend you for your commitment to making sure that our veterans receive the benefits that they deserve and have earned. And I think your testimony was that there was a dramatic reduction in the claims backlog at the VA. Did that result in a increase in the number of requests for review of the claims decisions?
Senator, you specifically, I'm not quite sure your question.
So the claims backlog was dramatically reduced, so you made decisions based on, and I don't know what the numbers were, something like from 600,000 to 100,000. Or you reduce the backlog by 100,000, or you reduce it to 100,000. Can you clarify for me?
Well, the current inventory is about 650,000
Claims backlog.
claims for compensation.
Down to, what was it before it got to 600,000?
It was over $1 million.
So since you made the claims decisions and you reduced the backlog, then when a claims decision is made, can't the veteran ask for a review of your decision?
I believe they can.
And so when you reduce the claims by 400,000 or so, did that the request for review increase significantly?
Senator, I don't have that information, but I will provide it to you.
Could you provide that? Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
My concern is that even as on the one hand, you're reducing the claims backlog, on the other, you're doing it so fast that the veterans are saying, wait a minute here, I don't think that was right. So I'd like to know what those numbers are. Then, your goal is to make sure that our veterans get all the benefits they deserve. How many veterans are there in the United States?
By the DoD count that we have, it's over 17 million.
17 million? Do you know what percentage of those veterans have accessed veterans benefits?
I believe right now the count of what we have enrolled in the VA is around 8 million.
How many?
8 million, a little over 8 million.
So that means that there are thousands of veterans that have not accessed veteran services. So what is your plan to enable them to access services, to find out what you can do to help them?
Senator, it starts with outreach. We've got to improve our outreach.
Outreach how?
We've got to be out there and talking to veterans. We've got to be out there introducing the VA, because there's going to be a handoff when they leave the DoD. They're going to be part of the VA family. We have to start early, discussing that transition, educating them on the benefits that.
Excuse me, I've been told for the whole time that I've been on this committee that there are millions, literally, of veterans who don't get that kind of outreach, and we're always told by all of you that there's going to be outreach. How do you intend to do outreach when the numbers of people who are working for VA is going down, and now Secretary Collins was asked, so there's a plan to reduce another 80,000 or so. We still don't have that plan, but how do you expect to increase your outreach if at the same time you don't have the people to do it?
We have a great Veterans Experience Office, and we're going to leverage that Veterans Experience Office when they're out there at VSO events with our community partners, with our internal and external stakeholders.
Okay, well, one more question then. What is your goal for reaching out to the 9 million veterans who are not accessing. What, do you have a goal, like within 1 year, you would want to reduce the number of people who are not having access to what? Do you have those goals?
I don't have those specific goals today, but I think within the next year to 15 months is a probability that we could address extended outreach.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I would like to really know how successful the outreach efforts are. I mean, I commend you for doing that. We just need to have them succeed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Make every effort to answer the senator's questions as you get the information.
Oh, absolutely.
Senator King.
Mr. Chairman, Doctor, I was a little puzzled by your non-answers to Senator Blumenthal on, did you have any involvement whatsoever in the review of the contract of your former employer? And don't tell me you followed the law. I'm asking you a straight up question. Did you have anything to do whatsoever in the review of the contract of your former employer?
Do you actually need this device if you are suffering from hair loss as a dermatologist? That's a question.
It's a great question.
Senator King, I did not review the contracts of my former employer.
Did you have any involvement whatsoever in that process?
Senator King, I am not a contracting officer nor a contracting authority. I do not have that authority. Only a warranted contracting officer has the authority to award, modify, negotiate, or terminate a contract.
I'm asking you a pretty straightforward question. Did you have anything to do whatsoever with the review of the contract of your former employer? That's a pretty straightforward yes or no question. I did or I didn't.
Senator, I have not reviewed the contracts of my former employer.
That's not what I asked. I asked, did you have anything to do whatsoever with that review?
Senator, I have not reviewed any contracts of my former employer. Okay. Again, I'm not a contracting authority.
I don't know how that doesn't answer the question. I'm not really for or against her. She said she didn't review them. How does that not answer the question? Or maybe rephrase the question. I don't know.
Third time I'm going to say that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, were you involved in any way whatsoever with the review of the contract?
She said no.
Senator King, I've answered that. I am not a contracting official or contracting authority. I have not reviewed the contracts of my former employer.
Failure to answer that question, you just lost my vote on this nomination. In your opening statement, you used the term risks 3 or 4 times or 5 times with regard to the people under your supervision. I don't want the people under your supervision that are making decisions about benefits for veterans taking risks. What in the world did you mean by taking risks?
Senator, when you employ new technology, and I think you know that from your time at LL Bean per our discussion when I visited you, there's opportunities for folks when you've got to learn your mistakes. You've got to fail fast. We do that in a test environment, understanding the constraints of the technology and how it's going to interface with the legacy systems when you go to a live environment. So test it in a production environment. Fail fast, learn faster.
I just don't like the idea of a test environment and risk being taken with people's lives and disability compensation. You can take, if you're talking about working a model, that's one thing. But if you're talking about real people and real decisions, the idea of risks and experimenting is not acceptable. What role did you have in the whole contract cancellation process?
Senator King, I recommended a structure for proper review by career senior leaders who independently evaluated contracts to decide which ones to terminate, descope, or not renew.
I thought the bulk of the process was done by a fellow at Doge. Were you in charge of that? Did you bring him in? Do you consult with Mr., I can't remember his name, Lejeune or something along those lines?
Senator King, we have no Doge employees. They're VA employees.
I know, but the people who did the initial review of contracts were Doge. Is that not correct?
They were VA employees, Senator.
They were VA employees. Are you familiar with Sahil Lavinia, programmer enlisted by DOGE, which was then run by Elon Musk, who worked at the VA and developed the software that evaluated the contracts? You're denying that he ever was involved in this process?
Senator, I didn't say I was denied he wasn't involved in this process, nor did I deny I know him. But what I'm clarifying for the record, they were VA employees.
He was a VA employee when
He was a VA employee. He was a VA employee.
Do you feel that the contract review process was successful and effective?
Senator King, the contract review process has never been done before, but it did allow a lot of the senior leaders responsible, the career leaders responsible for their programs to be made aware of several of the duplicate contracts that they had under their oversight.
Several thousands were canceled, wasn't it 16,000? There's been some dispute. The front ranking member said 30 something. The number I've been using is 16,000. Isn't that the correct number?
No, Senator. The correct number as of today is about 2,500 out of about 76,000.
Well, we can certainly, that's a number we can check. And you, in your answer to the questions of the committee, you said that the FY26 budget, this is a direct quote, reflects no reduction in force, and yet I have the budget filing that says disability compensation minus 862 people. What am I missing? That sounds like a reduction in force to me. The budget of the administration for 2026 is 862 fewer people than were there the year before. Isn't that a reduction in force?
No, Senator, and I'm not sure the document that you're referencing, but
It's a VA document. It's general operating expenses, FTE by business line and management direction and support. Subtotal, disability compensation, minus 862 people.
Senator King, I wasn't involved in any of the budget development, and I have not been involved in any of the VBA operations.
Then why did you say the FY26 budget reflects no reduction in force?
Because we haven't had a reduction in force, Senator. We had voluntary separation through VERA, VSIP, and DRP.
If somebody leaves, isn't that a reduction in force?
No, it's not.
Not in.
Do you have fewer people to process claims?
A RIF means
862
something.
Fewer, according to the.
She's right on this.
by the administration.
And those are voluntary separations.
I understand that, but that's still 862 fewer people there to process claims.
Senator, I can't say if 862 people is going to impact the claims processing, and if confirmed, I will do a full workforce assessment.
Well, thank you. I have to say that the contract cancellation process is one of the most disastrous I've ever seen in 25 years in this business. And to say that a person who was engaged in that will then become in charge of the Veterans Benefits Program, that's a lift for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Brazell, I want to thank you and your family for wanting to serve. By the way, I want you to maybe talk a little bit about your family and service. Your dad was a Vietnam vet, your husband served 40 years, I think. No, husband of 40 years, sorry.
40 years.
You've served in the military. Can you give me a little sense of your military service and your family's military service and why you want this position?
Senator Sullivan, first I want to thank you for your leadership on Camp Lejeune.
I'm going to get to that. Trust me. All my colleagues are leaving too because I want them to hear it.
I think
your service and your families, I think it's a big part of wanting to go join the VA.
it is. Again, services in my heart. It's in my.
They don't believe how toxic this is. If you're still using a plastic or wooden cutting board, you need to hear this. Right?
I don't want to say DNA, but I grew up as a Air Force family member. We've been stationed everywhere. I was born abroad. And one thing that I remember about my dad is he was enlisted, and then he took his GI Bill and went back and got his degree when he was in his 40s. And I remember when he walked across that stage with his bachelor's degree, I looked at, me personally, I said, it doesn't matter what your age is. Education is a continuous journey. It's just like me, I just finished my doctorate. All 4 of my degrees I've earned at night school while working full time.
Good. And didn't you use the GI Bill too for some of your?
I did for my first 2 degrees, my associates and my bachelor's.
Good. Well, thank you for your service and your family's service. It's not always easy. And when I say it's a family matter when you're serving your country, either in uniform or in an important position like this. So thank you. So let's turn to the Camp Lejeune bill. This is a real outrage from my perspective. I voted to provide the long-awaited relief for veterans and families who are affected by the water contamination at Camp Lejeune. And yet the Biden administration, Department of Justice, now the Trump administration, Department of Justice, all predicted if you don't put attorney's fees caps on the awards, that the trial lawyers would get all the money and the sick Marines and their families wouldn't get anything. And I know I know we have some VFW and American Legion Post members here, but this is an issue I've been fighting for because my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, to be honest, were more interested in giving their allies at law firms money, not sick Marines and their families. And I've been sick of it. It's the biggest issue, the biggest injustice I've seen in my 10 years in the Senate. Everybody knows about it. Everybody kind of looks the other way. I was not looking the other way. The Attorney General of the Biden administration agreed with me, saying this is an outrage. You can't have law firms, and you see them advertising all over the place, 70% contingency fees, 65% contingency fees, stealing the money from sick Marines and their families. It's disgusting. So can you give me your commitment to work with the Secretary, who's very committed to this, and the Attorney General, and I've had a lot of discussions with her, on at least where we are on the current contingency fees. Anything above that would be against law. Anything above 25%. I'm still trying to pass my bill to make those not so high. These aren't trials. These are kind of, already determined administrative procedures that under the law are very simple. I don't even think a lot of Marines and their families need attorneys. They can work through the Department of Navy and you guys. But can you give me your sense on that? It's an issue I care deeply about, and I've just been so disappointed how the other side of the aisle has thrown the Marines under the bus to help law firms. It's really disgusting.
Senator, no veteran should have to pay a third party to receive the benefits they've earned. Especially if that third party is charging them 70% contingency fees, correct? 70% of the money goes to these law firms. Agreed. And Senator Camp Lejeune is very personal to me. My oldest brother was a Marine. I should say former Marine. And he was medically discharged because of his toxic exposure to the water from his independent trucking job about a decade ago. So it is near and dear to my heart, as well as all the other Marines, family members that served or lived on Camp Lejeune. Is he still alive, your brother? Yes, Senator, he is. Good. Well, and he's watching today. Good. Well, tell him Semper Fi. Tell him I have his back. Tell him not to sign up for any of these darn, law firms that are advertising. By the way, billions of dollars. You think they're advertising billions of dollars because they want to help guys like your brother? No, they're doing it because they want to line their own pockets. So can I get your commitment to work with me, at least the present way in which to make sure the Attorney General of the United States under President Biden said that if you're a law firm and you're charging more than 25%, they will go after you civil and criminal liabilities. We should be doing that. Can you get your commitment, Ms. Brazell, on that issue to work with me, work with this committee, and work with the Department of Justice to make sure that injustice doesn't happen to the Marines? They've already
suffered through the contaminated water. We want guys like your brother to be whole. Can I get your commitment to work with me on that?
Yes.
Good. And we will work with you and make sure people like your brother serve the Marine Corps honorably. By the way, there's no former Marines, there's just Marines. That we'll work with you together on that, but I appreciate your commitment to that cause.
Baby.
And I appreciate you and your family's service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan.
Yeah, good point, Gish. I agree.
Welcome, Dr. Brazell, and I would like to associate myself with everything my friend from Alaska had to say about, I think, some of the abuses. It's even worse than that. I tried to get something done in HR 1 to go after third-party litigation. So it's even worse. Now you have private equity. You have sovereign wealth funds from foreign nations investing in litigation. They get some of the wins, and it's absurd. So we really do need a whole of the administration approach to getting people to recognize. When our office worked on the Camp Lejeune Toxics Act, it was to do right by the families who had suffered. And now you've got a bunch of slimy lawyers taking advantage and making more money than the people who were absolutely harmed. We need to go after every one of them. And actually in that same bill was the PACT Act, and I want to get to you a little bit later on about some of the headwinds that it's created, because quite honestly, with all due respect to my colleagues here, I voted against the bill because it wasn't ready for prime time, and you're going to be a part of what's going to be needed to fix it. Let me poison the well here and tell you I'm going to support your confirmation. I'm going to get back to a few questions in the time remaining, but I know the hour is late. But Mr. Chair, I want to read Sarah Verardo. I think that you've met Ms. Verardo before from the Independence Fund. Her husband, Mike Verardo, died. I got this statement I want to read to you because I think it's appropriate. I spoke at his eulogy. When my husband, Michael, died on August the 26th, his VA pay and his Army retirement pay were deposited into our account the very next day, August 27th. Without any notice to me, those payments were then reversed on 9 September, overdrafting my account and triggering fees. I had the means to cover it, but many surviving families do not. The lack of communication in that window between a veteran's death and the start of survivor benefits is unacceptable. Families need clear notice and a process that does not leave them financially blindsided in the midst of all that grief. I'd like unanimous consent to also have her statement in the record.
Without objection.
We got to fix this. I was there. I spent a lot of time at the Verardo home the night he died. This is the last thing she should have had to experience. And she has the means to get through it. A lot of people don't. So now let me get mad so I won't cry. I am hopeful that somebody with your background in information technology and supply chain, and I presumably large-scale implementations, that we can finally get a scheduling system that works after billions of dollars have been spent, that we can finally get wait times down to a level that are acceptable, because they've grown in spite of all the efforts on a bipartisan basis over several administrations to fix it. How do we go about fixing that? Or how do you propose to come in? You've got to know the situation. Tell me your method for actually going after this and giving me some hope that in my remaining time in the U.S. Senate, I may be able to see some progress.
Senator, you raise a good point. Let's address first the overpayments. That is unacceptable that we would do that to a veteran or veteran's family. We have to address that. We have to ensure that we have processes and procedures in place to actually have those capabilities of ensuring that we're not putting any veteran in financial burden. With respect to your question about scheduling, that is for the healthcare side, but I commit to you that I will work.
It's a broader problem. It's the reason I'm bringing it up. You're going to be ahead of the VBA, and there's going to be a lot of transformation opportunities here. I think that we're throwing money down a money pit, and it's not about the money, it's about the lack of service that we're giving veterans by throwing that money down the money pit. And this is a $10 billion scheduling system. So my point is in the VBA and where you need people, process, technology changes, can you assure me that you'll do right by the veterans and right by Congress to spend this money effectively, get the lead on target, and succeed?
Senator, it will require the internal stakeholder engagement, but I commit that we will ensure that the right stakeholders at the table at the very beginning to ensure that we deliver to our veterans.
Well, I think we need to step back, and I think we ought to have a discussion about the extent to which benefits administration has been affected by any of the decisions of Congress. Here's what I will leave you with, and I hope that you will commit to me that you will come back here. Oftentimes, the problems we see in various agencies are a result of bad decisions made by us. Well-intended, but not very well thought out in terms of how to implement them. And then we bring you back here and flog you for not being able to implement something that we are responsible for not having thought through the implementation. So I would really appreciate if you could come back to us, not necessarily in an open hearing, but give us a stop, start, continue on the kinds of things that we're doing that are working and the things that we should stop doing because it puts you further away from the very things we're asking you to accomplish. That would be very helpful if we could get some report back specifically within the BBA within 90 or 120 days of you getting over into the job, and I would appreciate that feedback. Can I get that commitment from you?
Senator, you have my commitment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clear about some of your responses to Senator King and Senator Grono. Is it your testimony that nobody has been discharged or fired?
Outside, it is my testimony that nobody's been riffed. Nobody's been riffed.
Nobody has been discharged or fired. Is that your testimony?
Nobody's.
In other words, involuntarily separated, whatever you want to call it, but rift, I don't know what rift means. Tell me in the language that veterans can understand. Has anybody been fired?
Senator Blumenthal, not to my understanding.
Not to your knowledge? What about the thousands of probationary employees who've been discharged? They've been told they don't have a job anymore.
Ranking Member Blumenthal, I believe that's under litigation, so I cannot comment on that.
You can't comment on it, but how can you say that no one's been fired when in fact thousands of probationary employees have been told you're discharged? And by the way, thousands have been hired back because lo and behold, the VA discovered it needed them. Are you aware of that fact?
Ranking Member Blumenthal, I am not aware of that.
You're not aware of it. But your testimony to us is no one's been fired. I cannot believe that testimony. Have you spoken to anyone?
She said no one's been riffed.
At your former employer since your beginning work at the VA? Anyone at Science Application International Corporation?
The only individual I spoke with was once to actually get some information for my financial disclosure. That was it.
So you haven't talked to anyone other than the person who was in charge of your financial disclosure facts?
That is correct.
I've always been against the firing of probies and then the large-scale RIF, which technically didn't happen. DRP was great for those who took it. DRP was not great for those who, in a sense, were forced to take it, I guess. And it depended on which department and which office you were in.
Are you aware that of the people who have been separated from the VA, and it's in the thousands, is it not?
Or, I'm not sure what you're asking me, Ranking Member.
1/3 of them have been veterans, correct?
I can't confirm.
What proportion have been veterans?
Ranking Member, I don't have that number. I'll be happy to provide that to you following this hearing.
In the VA workforce, isn't it a fact that 25 to 33% are veterans?
Ranking Member, I don't have those statistics, and I would have to get back with you following this hearing.
You've worked at the VA under the Trump administration. You've worked now for 7 months, and you don't know what proportion of the VA workforce are veterans?
Not at the top of my what I can recall.
Did you ever care to find out?
Absolutely. I'm a veteran myself, but those have not been statistics that I've asked.
You did care to find out, but you don't remember?
That's not what I said, Senator.
I'm sorry.
I do care. I do care as a veteran. I think it's important that we look to always hire our veterans first, but I don't have those metrics for you at this hearing. I'll be happy to provide those following this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I hope that this witness, perhaps in written responses after this hearing, will provide some answers to us. I think you can tell from our side that we're frustrated because these are answers that I think veterans deserve. You know, veterans agree or disagree, but they really don't have a lot of tolerance for people who just won't answer. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. I think this hearing is about to conclude.
Thank goodness.
And I want to give you, Doctor, the chance to say anything you'd like to say that maybe you want to clarify or something you wish you'd have been asked. Anything that you'd like to add to the record before I close it for today?
Thank you, Chairman Moran. I just want to thank the committee for their time and for their consideration for my nomination. And if confirmed, I will ensure that all veterans are delivered timely and accurate benefits.
Thank you. There are no further questions, and I thank the committee members and certainly our witness and our audience for being here today. Any member, and this is what Senator Blumenthal was talking about and what you were agreeing to do, Dr. Brazell, any member who'd like to send a question for the record to this nominee should do so as soon as possible, but no later than the close of business tomorrow. I did say that quite correctly. It should, but you should do so as soon as possible, and then we need your response shortly thereafter. And your testimony today, but your response to those questions are just like they're on the record and will be considered by the committee in your nomination process. And with that, the committee is adjourned.
Cool beans.
If you're thinking
There it
of
is.
selling your house, want to know how much more you could be getting by using.
It's difficult because I would say the majority of the questions just weren't even in her lane. Right? She's going to be the undersecretary for VBA. You're asking contract questions. That's VA. That's one. President Trump executive order at a minimum would be VA secretary. It's not the undersecretary of VBA's position. So it's I think it's impossible to like support or not support based on the questions asked. At least that's the argument I would make. But regardless of what we think, she's going to get confirmed. They're going to block it. She'll get confirmed eventually, and it happens all the time. So welcome to the rabbit race. It's just September 25 this time. Anyways, that's all I got. If you watched the whole way through, thank you very much. Thank you, Kish, for being here. Billy, for being here. Appreciate that. And that's all I got. Peace.